Because when you teach stuff, you reinforce the knowledge for yourself. And you also hear about other things too, like we had never heard of Adobe Wallaby, but we have now. And
so find out more about it.
Right.
I think if you're looking for that, because that's sort of the path we follow, is we saw this group of web elites, and we still do, and we're like, how can we get there? And sharing knowledge is an extraordinarily awesome way to do it. Talking at bar camps is really cool, a good way to do it. Just making pet projects and try to sort of push them out. Basically, like when you teach somebody, you sort of make them a fan of yours. Like they'll follow you because you taught them something, and that really becomes a part of them. So I think teaching is a really cool way to do that. So we did, bar camps. We started teaching on a web show with DocType. That's one of the strengths we had, is Nick could do video and we could produce something. So DocType helped us really reach a larger audience and get some more attention, and eventually brought us into Carsonified, where we're able to teach even more full time, which is super awesome for us.
Yeah.
So, for us, knowledge sharing is the way to go. We really appreciate it, and you're doing a lot of good for the community too.
And I see in the chat somebody is asking what a bar camp is. A bar camp, wow, do I really want to explain this? A bar camp is basically just a gathering of technologists, usually people that do, web stuff. And
it's like an open source conference. Basically, everybody agrees to get together at a certain point. There's a few stages, and then at the beginning, you just sign up if you want to give a talk. There's no predefined speakers. It's just you go there, you want to have something cool to talk about, you sign up on the board, and you talk for half an hour, or a lightning talk, or something like that. So it's a really cool way to get different information, because there's always a wide breadth of cool topics. Besides just normal like web dev and programming stuff, there's just like off-the-wall cool stuff, like how to brew your own beer and how to, just a lot of cool different things. So there's a local bar camp you can find. I would definitely recommend going. It's usually free.
Yeah, these events happen all over the world. Bar Camp Orlando is actually coming up pretty soon in April. So I think we're going to wrap up here just with 2 more questions. With the 4-day work week, what happens when you don't finish your work by Friday? Do you work that day sometimes? No.
You definitely want to
try not to. Yeah.
I mean, there's been times where obviously we have had to work overtime, but that's never the expectation. Is sometimes when things shift, we have to on our own we work overtime basically because we want to get it done, but that's never the expectation. You should never plan to work more than you're supposed to, because that just eats into your life and you're working.
Right.
But obviously, in any situation, there's an emergency where a server breaks and you have to come in. But you should never set your workload to the point where you go over the time you have allotted, because then what's the point of a 4-day work week if you're working 5 days?
Right. There's always going to be more work. So what you really need to do is just set a limitation on the amount of time that you work and try to make adjustments as needed. So we got one more question here that we're going to wrap up on. What frameworks do you use for mobile web apps? So this is a good question to finish
I've recently created a mobile web app, which I've referenced several times. In that case, I used jQuery Mobile. Right now it's in Alpha 3, so it's not super done, but it's done enough. I mean, it does a really good job for what it is, and I'm not afraid to use alpha or beta software, because you're going to test it anyway, and hopefully maybe you can contribute something back. And then using jQuery Mobile for the interface, I use Backbone to manage the data flow and how models are updated and moved around. And getting those to work together was actually a really cool challenge, which we'll see in the master class exactly how we're able to make those 2 technologies work together. But there's Sencha Touch, which I've had a little bit of experience with. Again, that's one of the applications where you sort of build a Sencha application. You don't just like add it to your application. I'd love to learn more about that. I'm trying to think there was the old JQ Touch, which is sort of becoming replaced with jQuery Mobile and Sencha Touch.
Right.
There's probably other ones, but those are what we use sort of primarily as good tools to work in the mobile web browser.
Very cool. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. We do these every Tuesday at noon, and thank you so much for joining us. See you next time.
See ya.